Hey, it's Kaspar with another Q&A. This set of questions will all be Xenoblade related. I've also got a bunch of Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing related questions to answer that I'll give their own videos instead of just jumbling them all together here. So these are various questions that I've either been asked or were part of conversations on. So first one and the most important, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I want a Xenoblade export on the Switch? 1087 out of 10. X is, well, it's not the best game ever. All the Xenoblade games are some of the best games ever, and you can't exactly say one is better than the other. But X is my favorite of them, so my favorite of the 3 best games of all time. So there's really no way to quantify properly just how much it needs to come to the Switch, because playing it on the Wii U is pretty inconvenient. Plus, online features are not what they used to be on the Wii U, since Miiverse shut down. And there's a lot of stuff they can improve with the online features on the Switch that they hopefully do when eventually they port it. Next question is, do I have any new Xenoblade-inspired areas on my Animal Crossing island planned after the Hylial Meadow Sylvalum-inspired area on my beach? Not currently. I don't currently have any plans for more areas, but that's just because for every area on my Animal Crossing island, I don't exactly have big plans ahead of time for them. I just make them as I get the ideas. So while I don't have anything planned now, it doesn't mean I necessarily won't have any new areas, Xenoblade or otherwise, on my island. I'll probably end up having some new areas eventually, as I get bored with stuff that's currently there. Maybe something I'll do is add more around the Aegis Lake, though I don't plan on completely replacing it, because I don't have anywhere else to put the Aegis Lake, and I really want to have an Aegis Lake on my island. Next question is, what is my favorite weapon in the Xenoblade series? Well, this would be going by favorite looking weapon and not exactly how they perform. If we're going by how they perform, then obviously Poppy Cutie Pie's variable saber that the Lego Tora has right here would probably be my favorite weapon, because Poppy Cutie Pie is just completely broken. So I'll go by favorite looking weapon, and that would probably be the Pyra Aegis Sword. Close behind it, though, would be the Monado 1. Pyra Aegis Sword beats out Monado 1 in design, though, just because it looks so much sharper and has the flames coming out of it. So it's definitely one of the coolest looking weapons of all time. If only it was as good as the Mithra Sword. Or if there was a way to have it as a skin or something, so you could have the Pyra Sword out without having to actually use Pyra over Mithra. Since once you get Mithra, there's basically no reason to ever use Pyra again in battle. Who is my favorite Nopon in the series? That would be Tora, because he has the most personality and most plot relevance compared to all the other Nopon, who are mostly just there for comedic relief. And Tatsu, who is the most annoying thing ever. But yeah, Tora is my favorite Nopon, especially because he created Poppy, and his interactions with Poppy give him much more depth than any other Nopon got. Nene and Kino are also pretty good, but they don't get enough screen time to be as interesting. They're mostly just there because they're really adorable. And the last question is, what are some of my favorite names of unique monsters? So there's a ton of really good unique monster names, either because they're funny or because of just sounding awesome. So I tried to compile a list of the best names I could think of. So first of all, there's 3 that I could think of that were all from the from Mechonis Field. That's Revolutionary Bifrons, Destroyer Salvation and Commander Orasian. All those names just sound so intimidating and cool. The fights themselves are kind of mediocre, except for Commander Orasian. I think it was Commander Orasian is the one that was one of those really big mechon. So that one was, and I think it had a spike damage on it, so that one was pretty challenging. The others, though, all the other stuff in Mechonis Field, they're kind of way too weak. You kill them too quickly to really enjoy the fight or notice anything particular about the fights, so they weren't too memorable, just the names are memorable. Immovable Gonzalez is another one of my favorite unique monster names because it just sounds both awesome and ridiculous. Like, the immovable part sounds really cool, and then you have a simple name like Gonzalez. Immovable Gonzalez. And then it's just a giant monkey that stands there blocking your way. Something about it is just really funny. And also in Xenoblade 2, there's another immovable Gonzalez, and that one is just sleeping there, blocking your way again. So, a combination of the name and their existence of just standing in place, being immovable until you kill them, something about that is really funny. Then, the rest of these are all from X. I don't really have any unique monster names that came to mind from Xenoblade 2. Most of the unique monsters in 2 weren't really that memorable. Just because there's not as much reason to fight them in 2 compared to in 1 and X. In X, they really stand in your way, and they're survey completion. You need to kill most of them for survey completion, and also because of quests. And then in 1, you get the affinity coins, and you have to kill a bunch for quests. But in 2, you don't have any quests to kill them, so I think that's one of the reasons why they're a lot less memorable in 2. So the rest of my favorite unique monster names, Lambert the Divine Wind is one of the coolest sounding unique monster names in the series, definitely. It's such an early game thing, so you definitely memorable. You fight it a lot if you're going back to that area for quests. And there's quite a few quests where you have to go to that area over and over again, so you're constantly seeing Lambert the Divine Wind. Megaton the Hell Express. Hope I don't get demonetized just for saying that. So that one sounds cool on its own, and then it gets kind of funny when you consider that it's a giant pig, or a giant wild boar. So the Megaton name gets kind of funny there. And another one that's a suid, funny mostly because of the fact that it is a giant boar, is Bogdan the Dense. And then these last few are because they just sound really funny with how ridiculous they are, is Sheldon the Dentally Challenged. A crocodile that's missing teeth. And despite the hilarious name, it's pretty tough for the time when you would fight it. Another one that's really strong, ironically, for the time you fight it, not so much because it's strong itself, but because it has a really high counter spike on it, is Kaspar the Unhealthy Eater. Also, that one's tough because it's surrounded by a bunch of enemies that are much stronger than it. And then the last one is Gradivus the Headless Emperor. So that one's both cool sounding and pretty funny because it's Headless Emperor. And the fact that it's literally missing its head. Granted, it's a fake head, but still, pretty funny name. So that's it for Xenoblade-related questions to answer. Like I said, I've got some Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing-related questions that I'll group together in their own question-and-answer videos. And if you've got anything to answer, anything you want to ask that you want answered in a future Q&A, leave it in the comments. And see you next time!